Catherine Gordon. This is the Sugar Freedom Channel, where I describe how getting off of sugar helped me to overcome obesity permanently. Today's episode is the Great Nutrient Collapse. Over the last few years, I've had the opportunity to read a number of scholarly articles that have taught me why the carnivore diet, because now I am carnivore, is helping me to stay off of sugar and to keep my obesity and my overeating in remission. So my journey started with giving up added sugar and then going to a ketogenic diet and then finally now going to an animal-based diet. Recently, I shared research on reward deficiency syndrome, which partly explains my compulsive overeating and my old drive to eat too much sugar and too many carbs. But today, we're looking at the drive to overeat from a different angle. And the question is, what if my drive to overeat, and possibly yours, is being driven by a lack of nutrition in food and a high level of glucose and carbohydrates in food? The Great Nutrient Collapse is an article that you can read. It's from Politico, and I will link to that article. It's very in-depth, and it was incredibly eye-opening for me. What is most important in the terms of someone who is reducing sugar and carbohydrates in order to manage their appetite, get healthy, and lose weight is what is happening to our food because of increased carbohydrates. And how is that happening? The Great Nutrient Collapse confronts the reality that carbon dioxide is rising in the atmosphere. And what the carbon dioxide is doing is it is increasing photosynthesis and causing all plants to grow faster. You would think that would be a good thing. More plants, more variety, more abundance, a very good thing. But here's the problem. That faster photosynthesis is actually changing the biochemical and nutrition makeup of the plants that are growing. What is happening, in a nutshell, is the plants are higher in glucose, higher in carbohydrate, lower in protein, and lower in nutrients. So you can imagine what that would be doing to human beings. Now, originally, there was an experiment that was done with zooplankton and algae. And of course, we're not zooplankton. But the algae was growing faster because there was more carbon dioxide. And they thought, well, the zooplankton would be healthier and more abundant. The zooplankton did get bigger, and there were more of them, but they were sicker, they weren't healthy, and they died more quickly. What's happening to the algae? What's happening to the zooplankton? And could it also affect what's happening to, for example, the grass that cattle eat? And of course, here is where this starts to become of interest to carnivores, and really anybody who eats food, whether you eat plants or whether you eat meat or not. The new experiment they did took a look at goldenrod. Goldenrod is an important source of food for bees, which of course then go on to pollinate plants. So they did a study where they were able to manage the carbon dioxide that the goldenrod was getting. And then they were able to study how much protein, how much carbohydrate, and how many nutrients were in this goldenrod. It turned out that the goldenrod that was grown with higher CO2 had more glucose, less protein, and less of other nutrients. And that when it was eaten by the bees, it made those bees weaker. But don't just take my word for it. Obviously, I'm going to link to this article, and I very much want you to read it. I think that this is the third video that I've made where I talk about research, and I ask you to go and read it for yourself so that you can decide whether it makes sense to you. And so now I would like to connect the nutritional makeup of contemporary plants to my overeating, and then also the solution to my overeating. The solution to my overeating was the replacement of sugar and carbohydrates with protein and fat. As time went by, I had to replace more of the carbohydrates until about 3 years ago, I arrived at an animal-based diet. And everybody knows, you can look at my other videos, exactly what I eat. I'm eating cheese, eggs, meat, cream, a little bit of cocoa, and then some apple cider vinegar and some lemon juice. So yes, it is definitely a narrow diet, but boy, oh boy, does it work for me. And the reason it works is because when I eat this way, I am not hungry and craving food all the time. And I have incredible energy, incredible well-being, and incredible presence of mind. I have the ability to get up, leave the table, and go and do the things that I love to do. So it's completely transformed my life. So what I'm doing with these videos and what I'm doing with this channel is I'm reverse engineering my recovery from obesity. And that reverse engineering is leading me to the nutritional makeup of food. It is very confusing to look at the way that human beings have been eating for thousands of years and trying to find a reason why all of a sudden we're getting fatter and fatter and tireder, we're losing our fertility, we're not nearly as happy. But it makes sense if we're not getting protein, iron, zinc, if we're not getting the essential nutrients. And if you want to eat a plant-based diet, you probably need to know that you have to be very cautious and very aware of just how much protein and zinc and iron and other nutrients are in the plants that you are eating. So now let's get back to the carnivore solution. Obviously, the solution to the plants having more glucose, more sugar, less protein, less zinc, less iron, the solution would be to eat animal foods. Eat meat, eggs, cheese, cream. The nutrition is going to be in those foods. It will be interesting to study, because this wasn't studied in this article. It would be interesting to study if the composition of animal foods are changing. My instincts say that they probably aren't. Protein is protein, meat is meat, cream is cream, but who knows if the plants can be changing? Maybe the animals can be changing too. If you are like me and you spent years overeating, over-consuming, in spite of the fact that you desperately wanted to stop, I want to share with you the reason why I was able to stop. And I was able to stop because I substituted plants and grains and processed vegetable oils for proteins and fats and animal foods. Now that I understand my dependence on animal foods, I'm going to do my best to eat them wisely. And I hope that you will too. Until next time, I'm Catherine Gordon for the Sugar Freedom Channel saying, be well and eat for yourself. Bye-bye, everybody.